I took my son's PS5 into a repair shop for an HDMI port replacement and came out with an attempted screw hole in the motherboard, which is now unfixable. This video is sponsored by Wondershare Recover It, more on them in a minute. This PS5 was sent in by the Nurse Professor on Twitter. I was tagged in a photo showing how much damage this PS5 board had on it, so I told her to send it in and I'd see if I could fix it. And we are already missing a screw. So far, I'm not impressed. And missing a second screw. I'm not saying that it's necessarily required to clean the fan if you're already in here doing a repair, but you know, it certainly would be nice. And here we are missing a third screw, and over here we're missing a fourth screw. If it keeps going on like this, I might just have to start a tally of all the missing screws. I do need to note that the screws that are missing aren't necessarily essential, but I find it to be much more professional to make sure all the screws are there when you put a device back together, especially if you're performing a repair for a customer. And now off with the top plate. And there's another missing screw. I believe that is number 5. And right down here, we've got a major problem. All these little gold pins right here show what it's supposed to look like, and all these little gold pins right here show what happens when somebody inserts the ribbon cable incorrectly and starts peeling the gold pins off of the connector. This will not make a good connection, and we will have to replace this cable. And I haven't even gotten down to the damaged part yet. Okay, and out with the motherboard. Wow, and apparently we had a little problem with the liquid metal. It's all the way over here. This probably wouldn't really cause a problem, except for maybe this over here. There's actually a little bit there. That's not great. Also, you look right here, there's a little bead of liquid metal right there. That's enough to just run around on this board and touch 2 points. And if it touches the 2 wrong points, it could cause some major problems on the board. I'm not really sure how this would have happened. This is pretty messy. When you're removing this board, if you just pull straight up and then just flip it over, the liquid metals will just hang out here right on the APU. Also got a pretty big dry spot right here, so we'll need to address that before we get it back together. But the part we really need to look at is right here. Let's get set up under a microscope and take a look at that damage. But before we do that, let's talk about Wondershare Recover It. Recover It is the ultimate and professional data recovery tool that's 100% safe. I use SD cards in the cameras that I use to film these videos, and sometimes I accidentally delete footage. So I'm going to show you how I can use Recover It to restore that footage. So here I have one of my SD cards in my computer, and there's a folder called Microscope Videos. I'm going to accidentally delete the videos in that folder, and now all the videos in that folder have been deleted. Now I'm going to open up Wondershare Recover It. I'll click to scan the SD card that I deleted the files off of. After it's done scanning, I'll look for the videos that I accidentally deleted, and I can already see the folder with the video files that I deleted, so I'll just click on the box, then click Recover. Now that these video files are recovered, I just need to go to the drive that I saved them to, and there are the files. So that shows you how easy it is to use Recover It to save files that even have been deleted off of SD cards. Another great feature of Recover It is their System Crash Computer Recovery feature. So if my computer that has all this footage on it crashes, I can go and use this tab right here called System Crash Computer, and then I can go right down here and recover all the files, even from a computer not bootable, a blue screen of death, or even a black screen of death. If you want to check it out, I'll have my link in the description that'll take you right to it. Now let's get back to this PS5. So right here is the damage, and that corresponds to this area right here. The only screw that goes in that area is this screw that goes through the power supply and goes into the metal plate, and that's what keeps the power supply in. So as far as I can tell, what happened is somebody put the wrong screw that was too long in through the power supply, which came through this metal plate, which then hit the board and this chip right here and caused all this damage. So this is the HDMI chip for the PS5, and here is the damage we're looking at. It's really hard to tell from this angle whether the board itself is going to be okay. The chip is definitely gone, it's toast, but I'm not sure about the board itself. So I'm gonna clean this up a little bit so we can have a little closer look here and see if this is salvageable or not. So I think this trace is okay. I think this one is okay. I think this one is okay. I think this one is okay. This one I'm not sure about. Got some more damage here we got to clean up. And this one I'm also not sure about. This is just unbelievable to me that a supposedly professional repair facility would cause this sort of a damage on a PS5. And at least from what the customer says, there was no attempt at reconciliation or paying for this to be fixed, or paying for a new PS5 if it's not fixable. That's unbelievable to me, and the repair shop should be ashamed of themselves. I would not be able to sleep at night if this is the type of work I did, especially if I didn't make it right for the customer. So that's about all I can tell right now with this chip still installed. So next I'm gonna remove the chip so we can have a look at this area of the board and see if there's any other damage that we can't see. I think we just need to rebuild this connection right here, and it looks like the rest of the connections are actually fine. I will go through and test them just to make sure. The other problem though we have is this part of the board where this screw was has been kind of sunken down a little bit. So when I go through and put this new chip on here, I'm probably gonna have to restore these connections one by one to the chip because this is gonna be much lower than the plane that the chip is sitting on. A while back I tried to fix a PS5 that TechRax destroyed. If you watched that video, you know I was not able to fix it, but I have the board here because I'm gonna use the HDMI chip on the TechRax PS5 to repair this PS5. So I'm just gonna put some flux on the chip first. That will help the solder flow. Then I will just heat up the chip until the solder melts. Then I'll remove the chip, then install it on the broken motherboard. So with this angle, you can see how far the chip is from the board. I can almost get my pick under there. So that's gonna be one of the main problems that we have here. I may need to create some jumper wires from the chip itself down to somewhere on the board. These ones we can probably connect with solder, but these last 5 or 6 or so, I may need to connect some jumpers to the chip onto the board. So that's what I'm gonna do next. This will probably take a little bit of time, so I'm gonna speed it up for you. I'm just gonna be using some really tiny wire. It is enamel coated. All right, and we're done. I'm not gonna lie, that was a pretty intense job, but I think we have these all soldered on correctly and none of them are touching. I'm gonna go through and put some solder mask on this in a little bit, but first I wanna get it installed enough to see if it's gonna work and if this fixed it. Now before we can get it together to test, we do need to replace this ribbon cable as well. So let's do that next. And here is a good ribbon cable. So I'll just install that in place of the faulty one. And now with the motherboard installed, the APU clamp installed, as well as all the ribbon cables, we can plug it in and give it a test and see if it's gonna show us a picture on the screen. Oh, we get a beep, but that's it. So gotta take it back apart and see if we can figure out what's going on. So I've been going through and checking all of the fuses on this board, and all of the fuses show that they're fine and no issues there. I also went and checked all the voltages when I had it plugged in but powered off, since it won't power on. And every component on this board has all the normal voltage that it should. So unfortunately, what I had to do next is undo all of that work I just did. I wanted to make sure that there was no issues with the chip I put on or the traces that I ran. So I removed all of those little traces that took so long to put on, and then removed the chip just to make sure that there was no issues there. And unfortunately, it still doesn't power on. So there's two things that I'm thinking might be causing this problem where it's not powering on. When I first opened this up, you remember the liquid metal was kind of like all over, and there was even a little bit on the board. So I'm thinking maybe one of the possibilities is some of that liquid metal might have gotten under one of the BGAs, maybe this APU, maybe the system controller over here, or possibly one of the other BGA chips. I've done my best to clean up the entire board and get all of the excess liquid metal balls off of it, but I just can't see under these chips to really tell 100% for sure. So then the second possibility, and probably the more likely one, is as I was looking at this board, I noticed that this entire area right here has been raised up from where that screw went through. You can really see it right there. Also, when we zoom in close, you can see that there's a crack all right through these little traces. Now on this part of the board, the crack doesn't actually affect any of these little components. I checked for continuity on each side of the crack and that's all fine. But as you probably know, if you've been watching very many of my videos, these boards are like 6 layers thick. So if there's also cracks down in one of the deeper layers, then that definitely could cause a problem where power isn't getting to where it should be. Based on the fact that this very bottom layer is cracked, I'm guessing that one of the layers inside the board probably has some broken traces too. So unfortunately, this PS5 is not going to be fixable, at least right now. I'm going to keep this board around though. I might be able to fix it in the future once I learn more about these boards and how they work. So if you want to see me revisit this board in the future, or if you have any tips that you think might help fix it, be sure to put those down in the comments section. If you like this type of video but want to see me try and fix something even more broken than this PS5, I'll put a video up on your screen now where I try to fix a PS5 that was thrown off a stairwell by TechRax. Be sure to use my link in the description if you want to try out Wondershare Recover It software. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a good one.